In this lesson 2 of chapter 2, we'll talk about enhanced formatting tools and a little bit about programming design. So if we recall from chapter 1, we had the comma and the semicolon that we used for the formatting of our display. And, wouldn't it be nice if I could dictate what that column width would be or how many spaces I wanted between my output statements? And so these tools will allow us to do that. So we have the keyword tab. Now, this keyword happens to also be a function, and I know that because of the parentheses. So this is a function. And a function is a predefined action of the language. And so TAB is a keyword, it's a function. We can't use it as a variable name. It's a function because I know it's going to have to take a parameter. And the parameter that it takes are integer values. Okay, it takes integer values. I can only pass it whole numbers. What this function does is it works with a print statement to control which column to start printing in. So where the comma always took me out to 14 columns, this one will say, hey, I want you to tab to column 10, and it will move to column 10. If I want to tab to column 15, it will tab to column 15. The cursor moves forward to a specific column defined by the parameter before it starts to print something in the output screen. What you have to be careful of is that you do not pass a column value if you've already passed that column. So I can't tab 15 and then in the same line tab to 12 because column 15 already passed by column 12. So this would be something that we need to be mindful of. So let's take a look at this example here of code. We have length is equal to 5, width is equal to 3, and we're going to use the tab function to help control how that information is displayed within my row. So here it's going to print the value of length. So remember that it always puts the implied space here for the possibility of a negative sign. So it's going to actually start in column 2 of the row. So it will print the 5, but then it says, I want you to tab to column 6. So it's going to tab over to this column and would normally start printing here. But since I'm going to print the width, it's going to put the implied space. So this guy right here is going to put the implied space in case it's negative. It then says to tab to column 13. Again, tabbing to column 13, and they have to be in ascending order. So 6 has to come before 13 in the same line. And then again, it puts that space, but take notice to how we appended the statement together. We use the semicolon, actually has another operation. It's just appending actions. All right, it's appending together actions. And so the first is we're going to print the length, and then to there, I want the cursor to stay there, tab to column 6, print the width, stay there, tab to column 13, stay there, and then print the product of length times width. So we do have logic errors that occur. Now this statement looks almost identical to the previous slide. We have length is equal to 5, width is equal to 3, but the differences are the values that I have in my tab statement. It says to print the length, which it did like it did in the last slide, and then to tab to column 6, and then it prints the width. So it behaved the same as it did in the previous slide. However, it said to tab to column 6. Well, the problem is that when it printed the 3 in column 7, it already had surpassed the column 6. So it's going to go looking for the next column 6, which happens to be in the next row. So that's why another row has been created and printed the product there. So this is what we would refer to as a logic error. You know, syntactically it's correct. It executed, but I didn't get quite what I thought I should be getting. So you can see the difference. Here, when I had 6 and 13, it printed correctly. But when I used tab 6 twice in the same line, I didn't get the output that I was hoping for because it went looking for another column 6. So how do I overcome that problem? You know, can I use the same number in the same row? And that's where the SPC comes in at. This, again, is a function. It accepts a parameter, again, of only integer value. Okay, it has to be an integer, a whole number in there. It's used within a print statement, just like the tab function was, to control how the output is going to be formatted. SPC is similar to, but not quite the same as the tab function. Okay, what it does is it indicates how many spaces to move forward before it prints. It doesn't matter how, you know, what column I'm in. It just matters how many spaces do I want from where I finished printing previously to where I want to pick up printing my next item. Now, there's something a little odd about this. When we look at the tab function on our keyboard and in a Word document or a Google Doc, it gives us that preset tab and always moves over that preset tab. Doesn't matter how many times I push it. That's not the case here. Tab doesn't work the same way as it does in our Word documents, and you need to keep that in mind. So here's an example of how my SPC might execute. So we're going to print the length, but then where this ends, where length ends in the output row, it's going to put 12 spaces before it prints the width value. So we can see that here using the same example that we did with the tab, but I replaced it with SPCs. It's going to print the length like it did before, and it's going to tab over 6 spaces. So it's going to go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, it's going to want to start to print here, but it puts that extra space there again for the idea of the possible negative sign. And then from there, it is going to tab 9 spaces over, and it will go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Looks like I needed to fix that. It should have. So this should be over 1 more, but then it prints the length. So I can have 2 of the same number in here. If I would put a 6 here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then it would put the 15 here if I use that. So I can do that with the SPC. I can't do that with the tab. Finally, 4 important steps that you need to know moving forward. Write them down, memorize them, the 4 steps to writing a program. As we start to develop our abilities to create our programs in the future, you need to first plan the desired output and identify the required input. What is my program going to do, and what do I need to get it done? Number 2 is just planning the processing steps, kind of giving it an outline like you would to write a composition in English. I'm thinking about the process. How's it going to lay out? Am I going to need to use some math calculations? This input output, how am I going to process that information? Take notice that the 3rd thing on the list, it's not the 1st and it's not the 2nd. It is to code the program, where we're actually going to type those executing lines of code. Finally, the idea of testing and debugging the program to fix any errors that I have, whether they're syntax errors or logic errors, that is the 4th step to programming design.